Welcome, likes and dislikes of my own Axopar 37 XC cross cabin. To start off with a bit of a spoiler, there are so many things I really like about this Axopar 37. I truly love this boat, but there's a few things which I don't really like so much, and some things that I've actually changed. So let me take you on board my own boat called Off Duty. And this is the way I usually tend to do my boating. I live here on the marina, and sometimes in the evening after a day of hard work, my wife is maybe working, watching television, whatever. I tend to go out just by myself, which I really like. And when I'm here, I do this. And this comes with the joystick system. Waypoints, you see there are two, Kempers Island and Kempers Watersport. I point out Kempers Island. I say go to, asks me if I need to engage the autopilot, I confirm, and off it goes. So now it takes a bit of time for it to adjust, but it takes me to the place I want to go, so I can walk around and do my job. This comes with the Mercury joystick, which I like, and a lot of my customers like it. I don't use it in the way it's supposed to be used, because when I was this big, I was already driving boats with twin engines. So this is doing this is in my system, so I really tend to still use these two levers, which are fine by me. But there's two things I do use often, if not every time that I do my boating. One being the autopilot, and the second one being the skyhook. If I come back the way I just left, if I come back before this watershed where my boat is stored, in the winter time, when there's say a force 4, maybe even 5, I press the skyhook just in front of this watershed. The boat remains at its position. I walk around, put my fenders out, have my lines ready, and I take it back by disengaging the skyhook and go in. So again, now I'm going to walk outside, take my fenders in, and of course I'm using the first mate system. And a small detail perhaps for other owners, I tend to do this. This is one of the dislikes, to be honest. This is, for now, this is fine. I use this, I open it, you close it, etc. I tend to use it like this, so I can do simply this, because I've noticed that they hardly open. Only in rough conditions on bigger waters, I tend to actually close them. And now the cushion is not on, it's still underneath here. But again, I tend to store it like this. Let me take this fender in here, and there's a third one on the other side. Let me also take that in. And you may have noticed that we have some shoes with us, so I have set up the size of these fenders in a way that I can just fit two in each of the storage boxes. But now, because we have some shoes and other stuff, I put it here. And while I'm here, let me start off here, because there are some things that I changed here. Actually, there's basically one, being this Yeti cooler. I do have the fridge inside, which is fine, but it's not all too big. So I use this great Yeti cooler. It's relatively big. Of course, it's not, it doesn't have like a motor which cools it. But we tend to use it if we go to our island with a group of people. We take this home, we fill it with cold drinks, and this stays cold for a full day. So really very practical. You do see that there's place enough, so I put it there. And of course I have the anchor winch, and of course I have the battery charger also, which we changed. I also have an inverter. I'll come to that later, because a lot of people ordering a relatively expensive boat expect to be able to have good coffee on board. And that's why we already a couple of years ago started installing inverters with added capacity for the in-house battery system. So you can actually make coffee and use the batteries for other things. And you may also notice these covers. These are custom made. We have a great sailmaker who has made these for me. some people who know me, have been following us for a couple of years, know that I've owned two 28s before, on which I started modifying, especially for the bow area, the covers. I did the same on this boat. It took a bit longer because, to be honest, they are a lot better than in the past. I don't really, but that's my personal taste, like the red in the past and now mint kind of color of the covers. I think with this Brabus line, these black ones match perfectly. And this is a relatively simple one, but this needs a bit of explaining. Because what I did here is that we added ventilation. On both sides there's this ventilation hole, but there's also a mosquito net inside here. So what we do when we sleep on the boat, we leave this on, and on the inside we close the small ventilation window, we open it so that it can still breathe / ventilate while the cushions are still protected from the early morning dew or maybe even a rain shower, whatever. Of course there's still ventilation here on these two sides, which is fine. I just had a great holiday of 2 weeks together with my wife. We took a nice trip through the Netherlands, and again we used it because it was really hot. We had up to 38 degrees centigrade during the day, and then you need ventilation. So again, ventilation used on this one. I do use the gull-wing doors. What I don't use, I have the Mediterrana. What I don't use is the added cushion which comes with the Mediterrana, which you can put here. It's just that in practice we don't really need this added sunbathing area, and it takes away the daylight inside this cabin. Then again, there is a toilet here. I didn't order the separate cabin. I prefer this setup. I'll come back to that later when we go inside. The disadvantage being that you can actually look inside. So if you're in a marina and you want to use the toilet, you may want to cover this. So of course we have black covers also for this area. In practice though, I found in the past 2 weeks I didn't use these covers at all, because mooring always was stern back, with the boat being somewhere there far away, people not being able to look inside. So for us it's fine, and again an advantage is daylight. Really practical. I have a night vision camera. Axopar now offers this as an option also. I have the Psionics, great one. I tend to do a lot of boating also in the winter time, sometimes already at around 5 it starts getting dark. You'll see later when we go to the island, in between the small areas with trees blocking the moonlight or whatever, I need good visibility, so that's why I installed this one. And we also here, Axopar is offering a solar panel. We installed this. Some people think that this charges the batteries, and of course it does, but I think this is somewhere around 140 watts. That is not enough to charge the batteries, except if you leave the boat at the dock, you don't use it, and you leave it there for a long time, then it does. But this basically increases your capacity. If you're out boating, I found that sometimes you don't have shore power, or the cable is too short or whatever. This just adds the capacity, because when the fridge is on and the lights are on, now during the day in the summer we have 16 hours or so of sunlight, and this still keeps on charging. So a recommendation. I also have the I'm thinking of the word, the sun cover here in the bow area, which I love. Really great setup. It is a material that also lets the air flow through, which means that you can actually use it while driving slow, not all too fast, I've found. But it's a great setup to be able to sit here, and we tend to sit in the bow area when it's really hot, because you want to feel the cold or the breeze. Sit here in the shade, a great setup. I didn't order it at the back, but now having had really hot weather, I kind of missed it. So maybe a recommendation. And there's something I am forgetting. course I have kids, well not of course, but I have kids, and kids, but also myself, tend to use toys. And what I did here is that I installed a Scanstrut Atmos, a new piece of equipment which I love. This is basically an air pump which inflates stand-up pedal boards, towables, whatever. So this is installed, and what you do actually is you just use a hose, which is right here, an air hose. You connect it, here it is, you connect it. You have a stand-up pedal board here, for example, which I have rolled up here. I roll it out. I, of course, connect the hose. You set the pressure, and with Joby, they can be inflated up to 20 psi, which is quite a lot. But you just press a button, you walk away. I don't know how many minutes it takes, but roughly I would say maybe between 5 and 10 minutes, and it's fully inflated at the right pressure. So a great piece of equipment, again, which we installed here. The other way around. Really very practical. So let's go back. What other things did I do? Of course, here on the roof, I had maybe the cameraman, well, you don't really need to help me, but maybe you can open up that one, because this is a small detail but also very practical. Again, I do a lot of boating just by myself. So if I'm here out on my own, let me just roll it like this. There's a small sail batten, well not a small one, there's a sail batten here at the far end, which is very practical, because if I'm by myself, this is what I do. I have this and I roll it backwards, so that I actually can do that even if there's a bit of wind, with it rolling in a proper way, so that I can use this opening roof. Still a bit wet. We had some rain yesterday. I installed this searchlight. It's a different light than the one Axopar is using. It's extremely powerful. Can be practical in some situations, but I must say that it's so powerful that I only use it in the wintertime, because I don't want other people to get annoyed because of this really powerful light. And I prefer using the night camera instead. And what we also did is that we modified the mast here. You may see these. And what I did, let me actually show you, because I tightened it a bit too much. I'm stronger than I should be, perhaps. We have a lot of bridges here in the Netherlands, and there's actually a few really close by. We live in a great area where we have few lakes which are connected. This being the Westeinde-Plassen, we have the Brasem and the Kaag really close by, great lakes. And if I go there, there's at least one bridge which doesn't always simply open quickly. So this is what we did. I should have taken the connector off first. Be careful. As you can see, this is aluminium. It's an aluminium mast, so it's not all too heavy. So I take it off fully and put it on the aft cabin right there. And this, I think by heart, is around 2.35 meters, and many bridges being around 2.50. This is actually really great for the Netherlands, because you can pass the bridges without them having to be opened. So really practical. We tend to do this not only on Axopar 37s, but also on 28s, 29s, because they have the same. And there's an important passage through Amsterdam towards the IJsselmeer, and if you can get under 245, that is ideal, because then only one bridge at Schiphol Airport needs to open, but all the rest you can just go underneath, which is very convenient. So, like that. You may have noticed this. This is a small VHF antenna, which I to be honest, don't really recommend. My experience so far is that the range is a lot less than a normal antenna, so I may be changing this to a black VHF antenna. We have another cover here, but before I go into that, you see a flight board right here, one of my hobbies. So we had this installed, and we did that by using Fender Pro. You see them here. They usually are used to quickly attach and release fenders on the side, but I had these installed right here to have a flight board here. I must say that, to be honest, I should have done two perhaps, because as you can see it's not really tight like this, but we're probably going to improve that. And I did the same on the roof, because I didn't want the roof racks, because with the roof racks and maybe stand-up pedal board that would be too high for the bridges. So I did the same on the roof. So if we bring a stand-up pedal board, which I do quite often also in between the islands here, I use these Fender Pro setups with these straps, so that they're actually a bit, they're still low enough to go under the bridges. And also here, this cover again is in black, the same like I did in the bow area with these ventilation holes here. But not only that, I have another one right here. The small detail, there's magnets in here, so this opens, you see the mosquito net here, and I actually had this made in a way that you may know that there's a cushion underneath, and if you have the cover off, you fold it. When we sleep here, we fold it. It can stay in that position, so you can open up the hatch, which is underneath here, and have really good ventilation in the aft cabin right here, because again, you use boat generally in the summertime and you don't want to be too warm in the aft cabin. So that's what we did also. You may notice audio. I had a different audio setup. That's just my personal preference. We had a different audio setup. I was one of the very first ones having the V10 outboards. Love them. To be honest, if I were a customer, I would seriously consider ordering the V8s, because the V10s are nice to have. They're great engines, extremely powerful. In kilometers an hour, when it was new, we managed to get to 101 kilometers an hour. We're not able to do that now anymore. But still, with the V8s, my experience is you get up to 80, 85 kilometers an hour, which is already enough. Just thinking if there are some other things that I changed, but some likes also, small details, but I love this. Really practical, keeps it neat and tidy, and it's a lot of things I like. And you see the experience of an experienced boat builder here is that you have these areas where the water drains so it doesn't run in, and gas strut here. Just very practical, minor perhaps, but very practical and I think important details. Fire extinguishers, you hope you never have to use them, but there's two. They're really easily accessible, so really good. I like the light also that Axopar has here. Small touches such as the cross cabin writing on the side here. And another thing, you may notice this, I also ordered the sun covers, and some people are hesitant about those. You can actually order as an option the covers for this door, but for the full cabin, you see them here also. And some people think that they don't need them, but you actually do. Because if you sleep in the boat, let me go inside in the meantime. If you sleep on the boat, you open up this here. You open up this, and this is where I sleep. I'll say something about that too. But of course there's daylight, and you don't want it when you sleep, at least I don't. So you cover the windows, and then it's fine, it's dark. But not only that, if you're in a marina and you're next to a big pontoon where everybody passes by, you don't always want people looking in. So you just use them on one side, or only in the aft, or only in the bow area. Also in the evening when it's really warm, And you may have the sun going down, which can be beautiful, but can actually heat up the cabin also. I use the one in front to block the sun from heating up the cabin. So a very practical feature. And you may notice that we changed this also. We sleep here fine. Again, I spent 2 weeks here. Works out fine, it's big enough for me. But they are shaped, the cushions here, the mattresses I should say, the mattresses are shaped in a U shape, so there's a small opening here, which is very practical in a way because you can actually step in and out. It's useful to have that a bit deeper. But we found if you sleep for a longer time, we kind of miss that. So we used a filler piece. Not only that, the mattresses, our experiences, we found them a bit too hard. And also, again, heat, warmth in the summertime. We had a system installed with ventilation. So there's I don't know the English word for it, but there's a system underneath the mattresses to have it ventilated and also more comfortable. Back aft cabin again. But that is certainly one of the likes. I love having this aft cabin here, not only being able to sleep here, but also by being able to have this great sun lounge in the back, a great setup which I truly love. And you may wonder, well, if you're only two, you don't need that one, because there's another double bed in the bow area right here. But actually this blanket is used because we kind of use it this as our, well, I would even call it garage perhaps, to store our clothes, our stuff. You see a pedal here for a stand-up pedal board, and you see this sun cover for the bow area, and you see some towels, etc., etc. So we love this setup still because this is a great place to store things, and we love this being open. Let me in the meantime, just because we're inside, put this, leave it floating here for just a few minutes perhaps. But again, nice area, we store things here. Another thing that I truly like is this open setup. An alternative being that you have a small panel here with a kind of milky glass right here, where you have a separate, well, I would call it toilet area right here, where the toilet is placed on this side, and you can actually have a shower on that side. Check our other videos because I did some on that. A really nice setup if you want to have a separate area for the toilet and the shower. But we like this open area. It makes it more roomy, more airy. We think more comfortable, but it's personal. With the toilet being underneath here, perfectly fine for us. Again, you have lots of daylight here. And of course, if my kids want to come along, they're 16 and 18 now, 2 daughters, there's plenty of place to sleep here. And there's this is an option which I would certainly recommend. I really like this. A small cabinet to store some glasses and some plates and stuff. And you can store more stuff here and here. Small detail is that there's light inside if you use the light here. There's also light in the cabinets here. Nice detail. And what I also like is this big sink. If you order the different setup, you can have a sink on this side, which is perhaps this big. As you can see, I have big hands, so I prefer this one. And another small detail is this coffee machine. We ordered this piece as a spare. We had it installed here, and I put a coffee machine here. And this coffee machine can actually also make hot chocolate and some kind of special tea that my wife likes. But for this, again, you need 230 volts. And that is why we had a really powerful inverter installed. We increased the battery capacity. And what I also did before I go out here, let me show that on the screen. This is a setup by Whisper Power. So here you can see that my state of charge now is 99%, and now if I want to put the inverter on, I can do it from here by enabling the inverter. There's lots of different settings, but you can see now that the batteries are at 13.8 volts, and well, I can monitor all kinds of things right here. This is a Whisper Power setup, works fine. We have done the same with the Victron setup. Axopar is now offering an inverter which has less capabilities but also works fine. We do recommend increasing the battery capacity if you start using an inverter. But yeah, that is what I, in a way, don't like if you order it new, that there's no place for a coffee machine. It took a bit of time for us to figure out that this was the ideal place. I need to take it down when I take the boat in rough conditions, because otherwise it falls off. But in practice, this is a really nice solution. And I'm out here with Thijs, our cameraman, and I'm sure we'll appreciate this in half an hour or so when we're at the island to have a cup of coffee. And while I'm here at the helm, in the meantime, take the engines, well, shut them down. There's a few things which are different from the way Axopar is setting this up, and that is not because I don't like the Axopar setup. In fact, I actually love the setup where you have this glass display, I would call it, where you have a full screen here which is flush, straight, with two 12-inch screens. Beautiful, aesthetically really nice, and also very practical. Some people I've heard in hot climates tend to think or experience that these screens are a bit slower. Okay, I've not had that by experience, and I've driven a lot of 37s. But I installed this 19-inch. You see that it's really big. This was a real struggle for our mechanics to get it in, but we managed. I did this because I used the night camera, and I sometimes actually drive at night by not looking through the window, but by looking here, because right there I don't see anything, and here this works fine. So this is a really special setup for me personally because of my night/winter driving, which I wouldn't recommend to everyone because it's actually quite costly to have this installed. And I think also two 12-inch screens works fine, but this is the reason why I did that. And you may notice that this is a matte finish, which is a difference from the way Axopar set it up, and in my experience, but that also has to do with my night boating. There's a lot of glare coming off the standard dashboard here, so we had this wrapped in matte, which makes it more practical. And I'm not sure I can show you. Yep. You see that also I wanted this dimmable because of the night driving. So if I touch and hold here, it either dims or brightens these, or the lighting which is in the buttons, etc. here. Another thing we did is we had the bow thruster made in a way that it's a stepless. You may not hear this, but it's going really slow, and if I want full power, I do this. Very practical. Not only that, I have the, and let me show that also. Again, I don't use the joystick in the way it's supposed to be used. My wife does, by the way, and a lot of our customers do, and they really appreciate it. I have the bow thruster, but I also have them combined, which at the time I did this 2.5 years ago or so was still very costly, but now it's relatively cheap, so a recommendation. Then again, if you want that, you also need to modify the bow thruster, make it stepless. But now if I do this, the bow thruster is actually helping, which makes it smoother and I think nicer. So going sideways, if I press it further, it goes faster, and the bow thruster also increases the power. A great system. A funny fact about this joystick system, by the way, is that a lot of people like it, but it's quite expensive. And a lot of my customers ordering a 37, of course it's a process, and when we get to the point where we start to talk about the specification, they say, hey, I've owned, I don't know, 5 boats in my life. I'm quite experienced, I can use this, I don't need this expensive joystick system. Fine, it's ordered without, we put the signature, we celebrate, etc. But within a couple of weeks, usually I get a phone call where the customer says, hey, Bart, could you check if it's still possible to add this joystick system, because I have thought it through and I'm ordering quite an expensive boat, and I thought, well, what the heck, let's order it anyway. And I know you're so enthusiastic about this autopilot and skyhook system, so let's order it anyway. And they're all, in the end, really happy that they did. So a recommendation, even though it's expensive, joystick. Small detail, but there's a charging pad right here. My phone is right here, so if I go boating, I tend to put my phone here. Small charging pad. Really practical, and you may wonder what this is. This is also to control the screen, because in rough conditions, which I don't have here on the lakes, but on the IJsselmeer in the North Sea, etc., if you're out in rough conditions, it can be quite hard to use the screen by touching it. So this is a separate way of controlling the screen right here. I don't use it often, to be honest, but it's good to have it there. This remote, a true like. Why? The thing is, if you go out, especially here in the Netherlands, if you take a tour through the Netherlands, there's a lot of canals and rivers with locks also. And if you're in a lock, generally what we do is I drive the boat and I do the line in the back, and my wife is in the bow, or vice versa. But the one that is in the bow area, sometimes if you're in a lock, you want to attach the line, it can be quite cumbersome. You just cannot reach. And you use this. You have it either in your pocket, you can also have like a key cord. You press the button. Let me do it. You press the button and you use the, I think I need to switch it. Yeah, I need to have it on. But anyway, you press the button and it engages the bow thruster. So you can quickly push it and reach and access the shore and attach your mooring line. So really practical. There's VHF. I need to say something about that also. I truly like using the VHF. And why? Of course, it's a way of communicating with bridges and blocks, but not only that. We have AIS. Let me check if there's other boats who have their AIS system on at the moment. I don't see any, so not a lot of people boating with this nice weather. Let me quickly check again. Any people with AIS on? No, yeah, here's one. Here. Voltrots is the boat name. So if you're out boating, and this works especially in rivers, I can see what kind of boat it is. Well, the owner didn't put all too much info in, but anyway, you can access, sorry, I did it in the wrong way. It's a 13-meter boat, 4 meters wide, and you see the course and you see the speed, etc. And this can be really useful. If, for example, this would be a river right here, and I had this during my holiday, and if the river goes like this, sometimes you want to overtake a vessel. And you're not sure if behind the turn there's other vessels, so you're not sure if you can overtake. You use the screen, you use the AIS, because all commercial vessels have AIS. So you can actually see if there's other boats coming towards you. Really very practical. And also, some people have radar installed, which is of course really good if, for example, you have really fog with really poor visibility. There's conditions where you actually like having a radar, but the radar in the Netherlands means added height, and you cannot take the mast off anymore, at least not easily. And also there's a bit of radiation. So as a kind of an alternative, I recommend people having AIS because of this safety. So again, a true like, VHF. You need to have a license in the Netherlands, probably in Europe, I don't know. But I did it only a couple of years ago. It's actually fun to do, and it's not all too complicated. but I recommend that. I also recommend the Webasto heating. This was installed, of course, by Axopar. I use it very often, and a lot of people say, hey Bart, I'm never going to do any winter boating. Still, I would recommend thinking about ordering this, because you don't only use it for heating up the cabin in the wintertime, but also my experience is if you come on board, say early spring, March or so, when the sun is out, you're eager to go on the water, and you're 5 people. You come on board, you jump on board, you start up the engines and you drive off. Because you start breathing with 5 people, the windows start to get damped. And for that you need the heating in order to demist the windows. So not only for heating, but also as a demister, I would call it. And another small thing, it may look as a plaything, but there's a reason for this. I have owned a really old Range Rover where I had this installed in order to be able to do navigation. But the thing is that I have Spotify and YouTube. And there are some nice apps in the Netherlands if you do inland cruising. There's actually a really nice one called Watersport, where you basically install or set up your boat with the length and the height and how deep it is, how wide it is, and you say, oh, I want to go from A to B, and it just calculates the optimum route. It says which bridges need to open. You can even see the opening hours of the bridges, etc., etc. So this, for me, is of course fun, especially for music, but also practical by using these apps. Trim tabs, always order them, even though you don't need them often. And of course, let me open it in the meantime. It's a beautiful day with the sun coming out. A true like, of course, this is one of the main features of the Axopar, not only the 37 but also the 29, being able to do this and enjoy the sunshine. This is so nice. And what I also think is truly nice, let me close this in the meantime. Again, I have owned 2 28s, love them, both of them, but my kids were growing up, and then I thought, well, I should really order a 37, because as long as they still kind of like joining me and my wife for a tour or whatever, let's move up to a 37, because the setup here in the cabin is so good, especially with this Mediterrana setup. I love it because, let me show you, because of this. Put this back in the full position, and you can see if you sit here, I mean, this is just such a nice area, also in the wintertime. We even have been driving to a restaurant where we had dinner being taken towards the boat, because we love having dinner here in the wintertime with everything closed, but also in the sunshine, when you just want to have easy access to the fridge, which is underneath here, and to the cabinets where you have the glasses, etc. This is a great, very cozy, comfortable social area. Not only that, when you sit here in the evening, you want to read a book, you put your feet up like this, you sit very comfortably. It's a great area. Visibility is excellent, you see everything. I've actually been sleeping here in the middle of the lake, anchoring in the wintertime just by myself. Now sitting here in the evening with a nice glass of whiskey, looking around with moonlight, with the water being completely flat, beautiful conditions, and then you really appreciate this cabin. Some people like to order the kitchen option here. I didn't, because if you have the kitchen option, which of course is an advantage if you want to do some cooking, if you want to prepare a light meal, you need it. But then again, you have a console here, so you lose this seat position kind of, because you cannot have your feet or your legs here anymore. So that's why we preferred having this. And in my experience, we don't really cook on board, because there's so many restaurants here in the Netherlands. And we also use, I didn't bring it this time, but we also use something called a cob, C-O-B-B, a great barbecue, which doesn't heat up on the outside, so you can just put it on the table, on the aft, wherever. It has a kind of a compressed charcoal piece which you put inside, and it stays warm for, I don't know, 3 hours or so. It doesn't get really dirty, it's easy to clean, a great thing, and of course it's also the atmosphere of a true charcoal barbecue with prawns or whatever. So again, we love it. We sometimes also take sushi or a big salad we get at the supermarket. So again, we don't cook, and this is what we like. Anything else that I need to point out? Well, likes and dislikes, of course, it's practical details, but cup holders here in the back here. And there's some storage here, there's some door pockets. I like that Axopar has this upholstery, these panels here, gives this warm feel. What I don't like is the lighting. I mean, it's quite bright. It's on or off. There's nothing in between. But the good news is that Axopar has changed that. So if you order a new one, you can have that as an option. And we did something because you saw me picking this. This is a small LED light, and this, well, you can't see now. But anyway, this is a small cozy light, and we have two ones here, solar powered. They have a way to set up in a nice dimmed way, so we do have a nice warm setup with this as an alternative. But again, now you can order as an option a package where you can actually dim the light. Well done, Axopar. Again, I love that is a true like, not only the upholstery, it's warm, it's cozy, but it's also very practical because of course sometimes you spill something. I've owned this boat, I think this is the 3rd season now, and you see, even though I'm really careful with my boat, but you don't see anything. And if, of course, I've spilled things, if you get a piece of cloth, you take it off easily. And of course, I've been surprised with a rain shower, with the covers not being on. Not a big deal. I would not recommend leaving them open, which I see some people even do, not a recommendation. But it is a really good, strong material, very practical. And of course this, it's very practical with flip-up bolsters like this. Another true like, main switch is right here, easily accessible. So a lot of likes. Again, the lighting I don't really like, and I didn't like the glare of this. There's some things that I don't like all too much, but some things I've changed. And the good news is also it's now, what is it, July 2025. Axopar will still be producing this 37 for 2025, of course, but also 2026 model year and 27 model year even, because we all expect Axopar to come up with something new, which I personally think is still going to happen parallel to the current 37. But I love this boat. I mean, it's so matured. If you order a new one now, there's some details that have changed. The aft fender boxes, for example, they have become bigger. So that you can, on one side, again, have plenty of fenders and your lines. And on the other one, you can have another cooling area and a wash and a small sink, so that you don't need something like this Yeti cooler setup that I have in the anchor locker. So again, a matured boat. I love it. And there's a lot of likes. There's some minor things which I've changed, but a lot of things I like. While we're at it, let me take her further back to the island. We were actually close to the island, but decided to head back, so I'm doing the same now by choosing Kempers Watersport as a waypoint. Go to, yes, start the autopilot. So now, confirm. So now we're heading back to our marina, and let me take the covers off in the meantime. A true like also is the storage that is underneath. If you order the Mediterrana setup, you also get this sun lounge in the bow with this big sun lounge area. But you also have this storage underneath. And this for me works really great to store these covers, for example, and even some other stuff. And there's small details, but again, Axopar is a very experienced boat builder. So there's even a small vent in this storage area, because a lot of boat builders don't think about mildew, etc. Just make a small box like this. But if you do that, water comes in or some moisture and you get mildew. Not here, because there's some ventilation here done in the proper way. And again here, double crest gas strut and some rubber here on the sides. Keep the water out and not having rattle while driving. Sun lounge again as an alternative. If you don't order the Mediterrane or the Sun lounge, you get this as a bench, which works fine also. And the advantage there is that you can actually have a table in between. We chose this because again we like the Mediterrane upholstery in the setup, but also because we think that you're not actually going to use the table here, because especially if you sit here with a group, people sitting here don't have a backrest. You could call this a dislike. Then again, it is what it is. Boat is always a compromise somewhere. But you don't have, in this setup, a table. We don't miss it, because if we want to use a table, we go inside, open the roof, open the doors, and you feel like you're outside. And this sun lounge is actually fantastic. That, to be honest, is a small, but for me, well, not really important, but I dislike. I have the V10s with electric steering. In my previous 28s, I also had, well, the second one I had the joystick, and I had a remote, so I could actually sit here, of course, again, by using the first made wireless man overboard system. But I had a remote for the autopilot. If you do some slow driving on open water and you want to sit here, you could actually use the remote to go 1 or 10 degrees port or starboard by using the remote, which can be really practical, but that doesn't work with the electric steering. I'm still asking Simrad every time to make it, but it doesn't work yet. By the way, here's the vent, so that's why we had the cover changed again with the ventilation, opening this up and having ventilation. Okay, and again, V10s, great, extremely powerful engines. I won't take her up to full speed, but at least some speed, because of course it's like in a car. You have a lot of power which you don't always use, but the nice thing also is, let me also take it to engine data, is that you can actually cruise with a nice, thank you Thijs, with a nice, in a nice way, because you have less RPM achieving cruising speed. So if I take her up to plane, sorry, I still have it in kilometers an hour. Let me quickly try to set it to knots, because I found that a lot of people appreciate knots more than they do kilometers. Here we go. 18.4 knots. See the boat leaning over. Now I use the trim tabs a bit, because the cameraman and myself are on that side, and maybe there's some weight somewhere else. But again, this is just fantastic. We're doing 3000-ish RPM and doing close to 20 knots, 19 knots approximately. A really nice way of cruising. And what I also do a lot is check this, Eco GPS. Now it's set to kilometers per liter, and I know from experience, if you take a bit of time, I can take it up to 0.6 kilometers per liter, where if this figure is higher, it means it's more fuel efficient. They're really fuel efficient engines, even though of course they consume petrol, but still it's fine. So again, V10s, great setup, love it. Onto plane, autopilot. I could do this for hours and hours, and it's extremely comfortable. The roof open, sun coming inside. So a really fantastic boat. And again, I've just driven it for 2 weeks. A lot of slow driving, which we often do in the Netherlands. And in the meantime, I think I did 255-ish hours. So I have quite some experience. This boat is also used as a demo, of course. But I love it. That be the conclusion. A fantastic boat. And before we stop this video, let me take the speed down. So I can do some further explaining. This, I think I had this early 23. If you order 25 or 26 model now, a lot of things are still the same. Some minor changes, like the fender boxes, for example, and some other minor things. Another like, before I forget, is this flooring. Really practical. Some people order the wood because they think it's warm, which it actually is. It looks really good, but I think this is very practical because I use it also in the wintertime, and sometimes the docks are wet, and with a slightly wet feet you get on board, you don't see it. So practical. But again, 25 or 26 model is more or less the same. But there's also now an iconic edition, which I think is fantastic, with 2 new hull colors. They are great, really good looking. I like this color combination also. But with the iconic edition, there are certain things which are added free of charge, like the roof racks, the Brabus line edition, and some other things with a value of, I think, around 15,000 euros. So it's quite a bit of money. And again, I think the Axopar 37 is a really matured boat. It's so good, it's so nice. There's hardly anything that you miss or would have done otherwise. I would be really interested on what Axopar is going to come up with as probably not even a replacement, but as a new boat in this size range. I don't know if they are going to build slightly smaller, slightly bigger, no idea. But again, a great boat, which I love. I've owned quite a few boats. I am 55 now. I've driven a lot of boats, working in the boating industry for 33 years now. But this is the one I like most. So a huge thumbs up for Axopar. A job really well done. I hope you like this video, and I hope you invite us for a test drive also. We always have this boat in the water. And of course, 28s, 29s, 25s, 22, we all have them. So I hope you get to experience these nice Westeiner Plassen also. But I hope to see you in our next video. Have fun.